The new COVID-19 is undoubtedly changing the way we live our lives by turning everything at 180 degrees. The vast majority of our planet's population, 7.8 billion people, has to follow authorities' orders of staying inside as a measure of trying to control the way this new coronavirus spreads. In the nearest future, and maybe even already, we will be able to experience the consequences of all these measures that governments have taken. Things are still confusing, and specialists point out that all of these measures meant to control the COVID-19 pandemic will certainly have a lot to say in the way we're going to live on this planet, in terms of working, traveling, going to school, and interacting with other human beings. It's important to create an overview of how life will be like after this whole crisis will end so that we can prepare ourselves accordingly. Among all the dilemmas that this period throws at us, one cannot help but wonder, how is the future going to be like? The physical side of the world that, among other types, is related to tourism businesses that include hotels, restaurants, and airplanes is hit the hardest by everything that's happening. However, the digital world seems to bloom, and this whole pandemic is being surpassed thanks to it. As most of the population is at home, their sole channel to the outer world is their smartphone, along with other similar devices. The world after this pandemic will surely rely on technology like it's happening now, and maybe even more, and the dominance of tech companies is bound to happen. From smaller players such as Zoom to the bigger ones like Google, Apple, Facebook, and PayPal, the digital world will have enough space to spread even more of its tentacles. Another change that many specialists talk about could be the increase of surveillance measures imposed by governments. In this current situation, such strategies have proven to significantly help the fight against COVID-19. Take Israel, whose authorities are using smartphones to keep track of every movement that citizens are making with the purpose of keeping the virus on a tight leash. Yet, there are a lot of questions as to how the human individual freedom and privacy are being valued in these circumstances. In fact, these tracking mechanisms have been used for many years now. What authorities are doing at the present is just reinforcing what has been happening for quite the long time. As this will continue to be implemented, people's socio-political rights will change, and not necessarily for the better. Moreover, the term of privacy may also gain a whole different meaning, as we won't be able to hide from the camera. So for all those that believe in freedom and human rights, the world after the COVID-19 will certainly take a troublesome shift. One scenario refers to an industrial revolution that is at sight, and digitalization will inevitably take charge of most services, including the public ones. If until now, citizens had more or less transparency in their relationship with the state, the post-pandemic societies will function within a more remote system. It's already happening, as many states are remotely taking charge of the civil society's privacy. People will succumb to these measures, and they will give complete access to any personal information so that they'll feel safe. This is precisely what will change the character of what a liberal world is actually all about, as basic civil freedoms will be taken away. In exchange for security, authorities will take full advantage of the crisis that COVID-19 created in terms of going as deep as possible into people's lives. In the hunt for gaining control over as much public space as possible, governments turn to digital tools that cover, in some way or another, the control measures taken by the state. It's a way of hiding what would otherwise feel too obvious if people would voluntarily give away their private lives so that they receive safety in return. States will not collaborate as they used to, and this lesser cooperation will result from the fear seated that anything coming from outside the borders is a potential threat to our health. This is how nationalism will find itself in the best environment to develop on a thinking pattern that each country should rely solely on its own powers and resources. The arguments brought forward will most likely be that this is how dangerous risks will be avoided in the economic, social, and public health areas of society. At an individual level, each human being will most probably experience a shift in their beliefs and routines. Many of us will look back at this period and see it as a transition time between different phases of human life. A lot of us lead our days following certain routines and habits that help us to better organize our time at work, at home, with our loved ones, and in the pursuit of our dreams and goals. Whenever we go through a shock, like this one that we're living in right now with COVID-19, all those habits take a different turn. We will change the way we work and travel. We will choose other ways to go through our days, such as what and how we eat, or how we interact with those around us. We will adapt, and new habits will be formed because the human race is built to adapt, no matter the situation. All this change can only take a few weeks or months. So not only that we as individuals will change, our whole system of beliefs and values will take a shift. History shows us that all communities that went through wars have ended up building much stronger relationships. The hardships of this pandemic, even though it is not even close to what an actual war implies, brings us together. We need to understand that collective action is crucial in times like this. Maybe after all of this ends, we will connect with others in a stronger and more sustainable way.